Welcome to How to Reverse Engineer the Life You Deserve, presented by Brianne Martin. She's joining us all the way from Texas. I am your host, Dominica Escatel. I am the founder of this amazing community, Chicana Inc. So get your notebook, get your pen, because you're in for a treat. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Dominica Escatel. I am the founder of the Chicana Inc. community, and we're excited to present to you an amazing woman and complete my new friend, Brianne. And we are here for the How to reverse engineer the life you deserve. So welcome. Glad that you can join us on Saturday morning. And before I bring her on, I'm going to officially introduce her. So Brianne is the oldest of three to a single mother household from the southern Gulf Coast of Texas. Since the age of 2, Brianne knew she wanted to be a famous singer in order to connect with mass audiences, to entertain, connect, and share her passion for the stage. The passion of being on stage started at 3 years old and still continues today. Miss Martin has sung on countless stages all over Texas, including major staple fairs, county Opries and rodeos. Her love for people and her connection now transcends stages and industries as a speaker and engineer. So Brianne has an amazing bio. Completely after this webinar, we will post all the links so you can connect with her and actually read her bio in the entirety. And we just wanted to dive in because we have so much to share with all of you. And so I just wanted to share a little bit before we start, is that I met Brianne through just an Instagram post, and that is the magic of the world that we live in right now. Just having to pivot and really kind of recreate what I was doing. You know, I was able to connect to her through a mutual friend. Shout out to Paulina, and so grateful for that introduction. And literally, we just both had a same mission of just wanting to elevate other women. And our mission just aligned so beautifully that we thought that we can really recreate the narrative that it doesn't matter where any of us live, that as long as we're aligned, we can really just become united and help support each other, no matter our industries, our fields. And so I'm just so excited that she is blessing us today with her presence and her knowledge, because I'm a firm believer that success doesn't come alone, and I'm not an expert in everything. And so I'm happy to have her bring her expertise, and then I'm sure along the way you'll learn a little bit more about her. So let's bring her on and let's just dive in.
So thank you so much for having me. Again, I think it's both, a blessing of the curse of the world that we live in now with COVID, now spanning the majority of 2020. And so to your point, I think it's an amazing and again, huge blessing to have been able to meet you, like I said, to connect and really essentially kind of kick this webinar series off, when you were telling me, I have these ideas to kind of help educate and, just have these soundbite sessions where anyone can come and learn. We have a vault of resources. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I help support? Because from my own standpoint, being an engineer or even a Latina in STEM, it wasn't so much of, raising awareness, because it was a kind of out there, and again, a lot of motivation and inspiration now, but how do you actually have a plan to, be successful? How do you navigate this crazy world? Even now, with kind of everything up in the air, how do you just kind of ground yourself? And so within my own life, being able to learn everything that I've learned as an engineer, being a trained learner, how to approach problems and how to have critical thinking, as soon as I flipped that switch and started applying it to my own personal life, I saw a complete change and just how I felt, not so overwhelmed, not so frustrated. I constantly felt so much more happy with my life. And so I felt like, how do I bring that to other people and let them know that they have that power within themselves as well? So thank you so much for sharing that. And without further ado, I will jump right in. And that's this whole presentation premise of how to reverse engineer the life that you deserve, because we deserve to be happy. You know, we only got one shot at this, and we don't know what one is held for us on the other side. And so, you know, let's really make this worth it. And again, this is brought to you by Chicana Inc. So thank you so much for having us. And I'm excited to, again, be a partner and help move this forward. So some highlights and insights. The topics of this presentation today will cover some basic engineering processes. Bet you didn't know you were going to learn engineering on a Saturday. A personal foundation standpoint, and then a life audit. And we'll talk about what that looks like, how to go about it. And then there will certainly be time for questions at the end. But again, kind of overall, that's what we'll be covering today. Who am I? I am Brianne, also known as the People Engineer, and I'm here strictly to help you get over your constraints. That is my goal, my purpose in life. Like I said, it was life-changing for me to do that for myself. I am an engineer, 10 plus years of continuous improvement and processes in international manufacturing, as well as a lifetime of resilience. You know, I'm 30 years old now, and to finally hit 30 and feel like I'm finally in the groove. You know, I was laughing with a friend of mine thinking, you know, growing up as kids, we just thought, how cool would it be to finally be an adult, to finally be able to do all the things we want. And now as an adult, you're like, I don't want this responsibility. Adulting can be so daunting. Additionally, I am an entrepreneur. So I started my own consulting firm in the manufacturing world. I am a manufacturing consultant. Go figure, on processes, procedures, audits, assessments. I'm a nerd for this stuff, as well as an international speaker. So again, not only sharing my story, but sharing these helpful tips, tricks, systems, and methodologies that you can apply, that everyone is so simple to be able to help get you in that momentum going, to work your plan and to plan your work. So without further ado, we'll jump right in here. So the first engineering discipline I'd like to teach, or even just kind of the concept, is the engineering design process. So many of us learned the scientific method when we were younger. It starts with a hypothesis, and then you test it, and then you see whether or not you even came close to your hypothesis. And the engineering design process is essentially the same structure, but a little bit more expansive. So the beginning part, you have to define a problem. You do basic research, again, just kind of like what is out there, what resources, what tools, what's working, what's not. You specify requirements. What is it that you need? What are you trying to hit or achieve? You brainstorm, evaluate. Again, this is where you get ideas. You talk to someone else. You know, a lot of us now, our research is YouTube, and we see what worked for other people. And then you choose a solution. You know, so something as simple, and so many of our, you know, New Year's resolutions is to get healthier, to work out. I want to feel better. And you have multiple ways, right? You could go about diets. You can do different types of exercising. You can do a combination of so many. And then you actually go develop and prototype that solution. So you try it out, you make a meal plan, you set up a workout schedule. Maybe you just want to go for walks, get, you know, some fresh air. And then you actually test that solution. So for a set amount of time, you try it out, and then you actually evaluate and see how that goes. So did the, you know, this test, this trial, the solution you tried actually meet your requirements? Did it meet some of them? Maybe not all of them. If it didn't, then that's kind of these bottom two purple bubbles here, where now you start back again. We'll brainstorm and evaluate and re-choose a solution. Maybe choose the part that worked really well for you, or maybe you need to retry the things you didn't do so good at the first time. You know, picking up new habits and new ways of thinking or even living our lives definitely takes time and iteration. And that's this kind of yellow box on the right here, is based on the results, data, you know, make changes, prototype, try it again. And this is that reiterative process. We can continue to always make small tweaks, and then you can communicate your results. Hey, this has worked for me. This hasn't worked for me. And so again, just a step-by-step process. And this is how processes work. So I even put the definition of a process, because this is a very engineering term. We sometimes are doing things that we don't even realize it. So it's simply a noun, a series of interrelated actions, steps, or tasks taken in order to achieve a particular result. So something as simple as brushing your teeth. In order to achieve that, we have a series of action steps. You would have never thought turning on your faucet is step one. A lot of times we all just look in the mirror is our first step. Getting the toothbrush, taking off the toothpaste lid and putting it on the toothbrush. Like all of these series of tasks have to happen in order for us to say, like, I brushed my teeth this morning. And it's something, again, that simple, but it's a process that happens. And we do these processes without even thinking. And so it's really fun and exciting to actually just explain how this all works and how the engineering design process is broken down step by step. The next kind of engineering concept is an audit. So I got really engineering and techie here. I figured if y'all could understand processes and we can explain it with toothpastes, we can talk about an audit. So per, like ASQ, the American Society of Quality, is just a systematic, independent, and documented process for obtaining audit evidence and evaluating it objectively to determine the extent of which the audit criteria are fulfilled. So again, you have specific needs or wants and outcome you're shooting for. Do you or do you not hit that result? But like, what are the steps documented? Are you on par with that? And so again, it's very much just reviewing the processes and understanding and having the time to evaluate what works for you, maybe what doesn't work for you, and different ways that maybe you have holes in it, right? So something as simple as being able to brush your teeth, right? We'll just go with that. If you don't put the lid back on tomorrow, the toothpaste isn't going to work as great as it did the first day, right? So being able to just do a simple evaluation to make sure that, again, you have the opportunity to improve. And this is that similar cycle. So we have a process even for the audit cycle of identifying issues, you collect data, and then you follow this whole cycle. So this is very much centered around policies, procedures, and systems. And I won't bore you with any more of that. But just so you know that there are 3 different types of audits. So a process audit verifies the process. A product audit is, examine a particular product or service. Does it meet all the needs? Is it expansive as much as you need to be? Or maybe it's too robust and doing too many things at once and you really want to narrow it down. And then a system audit is, how are these things all working in your favor when you have multiple gears going? And this is the part where, for me, this is where life falls in, right? That system audit. Not only should I be eating healthy, what kind of self-talk am I doing? What type of development do I have? But again, making sure that all the different pieces of my life are all at work for me and not working against me. So with that, we'll dive right in here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? I'm going to ask you to be honest. Those that are joining us, if you can put it in the chat, or even if you're watching this after the fact, really just take some time. How happy are you? Like right now, today, there is absolutely no wrong or right answers, but just to get an understanding of kind of, where do you feel? A lot of times we don't slow down enough to say, like, how am I feeling right now? Or even asking ourselves, if I had to put one word or even vocabulary about our emotions of how we're feeling, or how fulfilled we are. Do we feel like we're in alignment? Our vocabulary is so limited. We know I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm upset. But then in reality, is it more like I'm just irritated? Sometimes you're just in this ugly mood and you can't tell why. And it may just because the sun's not out today, right? So something that's simple. And so again, just basic, from a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? Okay, we have an 8, love it. And so, yeah, for the most part, you are a pretty happier person. That works in your favor. And again, you can notice that, again, maybe the time of the day you ask yourself this question, maybe how frequently you ask yourself this question, or even when you're asking yourself, right? If you're really upset and you're like, how happy am I right now, right? With everything going on, just understanding to kind of pause and just take an evaluation, like, what's going on? What am I feeling? Where am I at? So thank you all for sharing. Essentially, we kind of start with the foundation of understanding this hierarchy of needs. And this is very much from a psychological standpoint of just understanding ourselves, how we work as humans. And this is, again, from a very engineering foundational standpoint, we have to start with the basis. Like, what are we working with here, right? If we're going to build a house, we don't automatically want to come up with a saw if we don't have measurements, wood, or a place to build it, right? So with these kind of levels is our psychological needs at the very bottom. Like, this is the foundation. You cannot continue to build if we don't have a set, sound foundation. Then that's when we're talking about air, water, foods, shelter, sleep. The next is then our safety needs. We move up the next ring to talk about personal security, your employment, just having resources. You know, we get all stressed out about money or worrying about the future. And this is because a lot of the times we don't feel safe, especially now in the term of COVID. And that's why we all kind of feel like we're coming unhinged, right? Then the next level is that love and belonging. You know, once we feel, okay, I have a roof over my head, okay, I have a consistent, income of money, I feel like I'm going to be good here for a minute, understanding our friends and intimacy, the family, the just being like, having that sense of belonging and community is really important. And if we don't have that, that's where a lot of people say, like, we can't find happiness in things. It's that relational. And then the next tier up is esteem. So that respect, self-esteem, the status, like, what gives you that sense of freedom, what just makes you come alive. And then last, but certainly not least, is that self-actualization, the desire to become the most that you can be. And so again, if you're logging in here on a Saturday morning, thank you for being here with me, ladies. Like, that's kind of part of it. You know that there's a gap between your potential and where you currently are. And, if you're like me and my fiance, that's kind of our biggest fear, right? Is not hitting our potential. We just didn't show up for ourselves as much as we could have. And, like we never know what we could have been had we just shown up. So funny enough, he's at the gym right now, really pushing his self-actualization, right? Like, I want to be healthy and strong and feel great. And so that's something to really just consider. And you guys can Google this at any time, print it off. This is always helpful to me. Anytime I don't feel aligned or I feel off, I usually go to reference this and just say, okay, what about my foundation is a little rocky, right? Do I have a crack? Is it maybe like, something that's just irritating you right now? This usually kind of helps me have a checklist to go through. So how do we approach life? Well, what's really cool is back in the 60s, this life wheel was invented. And so you have the opportunity, again, Google it. There's plenty of coaches out there. Tony Robbins uses it. Zig, all the professional coaches and personal development gurus out there have this opportunity, and it's different life wheels, but understanding, we always talk about how many different hats we wear. How, I'm a mother and a student, and I'm a fiance, and, I'm a daughter. I'm also an engineer. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a cat mom, right? So however many different hats we break that up, this kind of covers just the basics of life in general that we, have a conversation through and about. And again, developed in the 1960s, is just a way to kind of help us gauge a map, if you will. So with this one, you can actually see the 8 different sections, all kind of color coordinated, and so I'll just start with business and career. Probably about, 6 years ago, I had graduated. I had, 3.5 years of internships, and I loved what I did. And then going into, the career, I thought, like, man, I love, being an engineer, but this role just isn't for me. So, being able to look at this scale, you'll see 5 and 10. I probably would have, marked myself at a 6. Like, I enjoy going to work. I feel safe, right? I have a paycheck, but I just feel like I could be doing so much more, or it wasn't highlighting the things I loved or the strengths that I'm really good at. And so, again, kind of marking, and this is how you work through it, is you mark where you currently are. Again, I would have been at a 6, and then you mark kind of where you think you could be, right? Or what your goal is going to be. So for me, I said, well, I don't want to, again, I feel like I'm never going to hit a 10 because I'm really ambitious, and I'm, until I own a huge consulting firm with tons of hundreds of thousands of global consultants, that'll be my 10. So I'll just shoot for an 8, right? And even that, it's okay to continue to dream big and, push yourself a little more to really define what that looks like. So for me, I wanted to wake up and be excited to go to work every day. I didn't want work to feel like work. So I put myself at an 8. And then this is when I started getting the opportunity to really think about, okay, well, what does getting to an 8 look like? How will I feel? How will I think? What will I be doing? And so when you start thinking about that and visualize it, like really close your eyes, and it's like, okay, I'm going to be at an 8, like 80% of like the perfect career, the perfect job. What does that look like? And what's crazy is I ended up getting that job. So simply just being able to, the visualization, the manifestation, thinking ahead and moving forward because you actually have something in mind, and then you don't quit until you get there, is so powerful and incredibly strong. And so again, all of this work is to really help you slow down, to start making plans to do that. And 2 years later, I had created my own rotational program. I was traveling the world. I had gotten my passport. And so it's that example of just being able to see and do and make a plan, because I kind of slowed down and said, okay, well, if I'm not happy here, like what would it take to get me happy? Again, and that was even just one part of that circle. So you can imagine how powerful this is. So with that life audit, it really takes the time to slow down and even ask you, what's your purpose? You know, like, what is your focus? Like, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Whether it be your legacy, a reason why you exist. You know, we really want to have some type of value in the world. And even if it's just to exude love or just to enjoy life to the fullest, anything that you do should be aligning to that goal. Simon Sinek, if you haven't seen the TED Talk, talks about this starting with why. And what's really crazy in the engineering world is we're so busy doing so much that, you know, to have to narrow back down to the why, it's almost silly sometimes, right? Because if I just tell you I'm walking the dog, that's doing a thing. But the how you do it starts narrowing it down. Is the dog walking on a treadmill? Are you physically walking with the dog? Maybe you're on a scooter and you have the dog on a leash with you, right? So then you start narrowing it down of how you're doing it, but the what remains the same, but it could be so many things. When you start narrowing down to the why, that's when things start getting a little fuzzy. You know, like, why do you walk your dog? Well, you know, I want him, he needs to walk. Okay, right, but like, why does the dog need to walk? And particularly even in the engineering world of processes and work instructions, any type of problem solving or Lean Six Sigma, if you've ever heard of it, we have a what's called the 5 whys methodology. And you ask why 5 times to really get to the root cause. So if you say, why do you need to walk your dog? Well, he needs to walk. Well, why does the dog need to walk? Well, because like he needs to be healthy. Well, why does your dog need to be healthy? Well, because I love him. Well, why do you love your dog? Well, because like we have a bond. And even there was only 4 whys, and now it's like I rely on this. He's, you know, he's a love person, or my fur baby, right? And so you have that opportunity to really get down to the root cause. It's important. The reason why you take your dog for a walk is because you want him to be around. You need that love and affection and attention and that companionship. So like, you got to take care of him, you know? And so that's the thing where we catch ourselves doing a lot of things that isn't aligned with our purpose, with our why. What are you doing it? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you showing up? Why is it important? And so it you know, it challenges us to reverse. And that's the whole kind of point of the green arrow, to really start with why in anything and everything you're doing. And then how are you going to do it? And then the what are you actually doing? Right. So again, that's something that we connected on so great here with our host, right? Is she just had this mission and vision to change lives and to empower our communities. And I was like, say no more, woman, I'm on your team. Like, that's exactly in line with my purpose. That's why I'm here. You know, I figured out a way that works and ways to break it down. And this is, you know, how I can help, right? We can host this kickoff webinar. And what is it going to do? It's going to offer solutions to people. So something that's simple really starts kind of gaining momentum. And as you can tell, anything and everything that I do has to go back to that why. Because if not, I'm wasting my time, and we don't want to make sure, you know, that we get caught up in distractions. So the benefits of a life audit is to really slow down and help us be more self-aware, to really help you be aligned, be more focused. You have the chance to balance your life a little better. Or if you choose to really go in hard and you're going to shoot for a 10 in one area, then allow yourself to give grace in all the others, because you're going to town on this one. So it's okay if you fall to a 5 or a 2 in something else, because like you understand and you can accept the fact you have reviewed and evaluated that that's where your effort is going to be. And so just simply gaining another level of confidence, knowing where you are and understanding the purpose behind your actions, the drives. That's the biggest thing, right? You want to live life, not have life happen to you. So even that, like, what are you spending your time doing? You know, observe and take note. You know, what do you do when you start your morning? How do you wake up in the morning? You know, several years ago, I would just wake up rushed, like, oh my gosh, my alarm clock went off, and like I already started in a frenzy. It was just chaotic. And funny enough, a friend of mine was like, Brianne, you know, you should actually wake up maybe 30 minutes early. Just start 30 minutes early and slow down. You know, like, take your time brushing your teeth. Take your time to sit and actually journal. take your time the night before to look at what you had for the day going on. So if you knew you had meetings, oh, let me actually like do my hair or straighten my hair before I go to sleep, right? So that way I wake up and all I have to do is brush it and then get dressed. If I needed to wear a suit, I could have it prepared and steamed or ready to go, or ironed right the day before, rather than wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. Like you kind of, again, you bring that energy into your whole day and you start it off with simply how you start your morning. What do you eat? Again, as a mechanical engineer, I constantly think about fuel. That is fuel for our body. If I'm giving you grade Z and I'm expecting you to be a top performer, like that doesn't work, right? The high performance cars require high performance fuel. And this is the thing to really consider when it comes to how you show up for yourself. How often do you feel good? Again, we were talking about really slowing down and taking time to just simply evaluate where you're at, what's going on within yourself, within your surroundings, and be conscious of that. How often are you unhappy at home? How often are you really just happy and full just of elation, just pure bliss when you're with your family or your friends, and really just kind of have the time to be grateful for that. As well as, when do you allow yourself to freely be you? Whether it's you enjoy, reading books. I know for me, like I love being outside, sitting in a hammock. It just makes my soul feel full. Being around trees, just something that's simple. But like, how often do I really go get lost in the woods? How often do I give myself that sense of just openness to be freely me? So again, I'm really interested to know, and you don't have to share it here, but to really think about that for yourself. Then this comes the part where you can actually set up time to do this, right? So think about your weekly schedule. Here I just do Monday through Saturday because Sunday is my dedicated time to just be. So, if you're a student, think about the class or the work, your work schedule, if that's what you do. Think about any type of studying. If you have office hours, are you really big into professional development? Do you read audiobooks? Any type of, again, eating. How often are you eating? When are you eating? If you're doing intermediate fasting, more power to you, but make sure that you account for when you're going to have time to make your lunch or heat up your lunch or, move into whatever type of next session, if you will, to really give yourself time. It's a priority to eat. And I know that's so simple and so basic. We talked about it's the foundation, right, of that triangle of our, literal physical needs to eat. And so many of us skip through lunch, or we're eating lunch at our desk and going 100 miles an hour. So simply chart it out. For me, I wake up at 6 a.m. Before I was waking up at 4:30 going to the gym. But, understanding and working with myself within a 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. time frame really works. By 9 p.m., I'm turning off electronics. I'm not working anymore. And, it's time to start going to sleep, to really kind of get myself ready for the next day. So again, I challenge you to really just think about this. Do you have at least time allocated certain days, maybe to do something? And then here on the right side, again, if you're a student, think about office hours, tutoring. Do you even take time to review your notes that you took in the previous class? I know that was something I did not do as a student. I wish I would have. I was taking notes vigorously. I bought all these textbooks and I wasn't taking time to actually read them in between class. Any type of organization that you're a part of, any type of spending time with family and friends, it's easy to get taken away if you're just like, oh, I wanted to stop by and tell my mom hi. Well, if you're talking for 3 or 4 hours, that cuts into your meal prep time if that's what you were planning on doing. So any type of things you do. And I know especially now with COVID, or, it was already a thing and now it's only exacerbated. But YouTube, Netflix, we get caught in scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or any type of stories, a Snapchat. So make sure that you're be paying attention to if or when you're spending time doing something. It's totally fine, right? If that's what brings you joy, if that's inspiring to you, if it's helpful, or maybe you just kind of need time to be entertained. That works too. But make sure that you're at least first and foremost evaluating how much time you're spending where. And then secondly, if that's something that you would like to change or fix. Oh, perfect. So then here's something as simple as, doing an audit of yourself. Again, kind of just taking a time to plan your week, or even ahead of time, really just what am I doing? Where am I spending my time? And again, it's simply that evaluation. So for me, I do this every Sunday. Again, I kind of work on and identifying what I have progressed in, or even some regressions. Hey, I didn't eat so as healthy as I would have liked, or as well as the previous week or the upcoming week. What are some things I want to do or put in place? Simply set alarms for myself to remind me to drink water. What does your time reflect the most that's important to you? For me, it's lately, especially with COVID, is spending more time with my fiance. He and I are so busy all the time that, we would say, okay, at 7 o'clock, we're trying to end our meetings early so we can sit down, have dinner, and then, from 7 to 9, that 2 hours of the day is simply just spending time with each other. We ask each other how our days are going. We share our dreams. Every month now, we even have a celebration of how close did we get to our goals, or to just celebrate the wins of the month. And that's something that is really important to us, is to solidify our partnership. And then prioritize, what are the most important things to you, and break it down to every day, every week, every month, because then you can actually go back and review how you're doing, and make sure to hold yourself accountable. I will say that, holding yourself accountable doesn't mean beating yourself up if or when you don't do it. We're all human. Habits take time, but really just learn how to manage or even parent yourself. So be very cautious of that, as well as just simply understand that you're setting yourself up for success, and creating a system around that to make yourself successful. I will say you probably won't get it done right the first time. We certainly have to learn about ourselves as we go through this, but you're totally capable, and continue to try and try again, right? That reiterative process that we talked about. So something as simple as setting a SMART goal. We talk about goals all the time, especially at the New Year's, and we're already coming close to, ending the year here in 3 months. Is setting a SMART goal can be really helpful. And I say only one because at the very most, I tell people to set 3 goals at a time. If you're doing 15 things, you're not making any progress in either of them, right? You want to make sure that you're very narrow and focused and dedicated. So something as simple as, when you're frustrated, make a plan in order to make yourself successful. Again, I will constantly say it. It's kind of my favorite motto is, plan your work and then work your plan. And again, as we discussed, there can be changes and updates, and you can pivot, but just make sure that you're holding yourself to something so you can see whether or not it worked, and kind of hopefully get yourself out of the frustration. So how to actually start a SMART goal is to be specific. Like I mentioned, really narrow in, be definitive. The measurable part is to actually have a way to see whether or not you have proven progress or regression. Funny enough, I'm hosting an accountability group on Sundays, and a friend of mine said, I want to be healthier. That was her goal, right? And so then she was saying, okay, so then how am I going to measure that? I at least want to work out 4 times out of the week. 3 days, is whenever throughout the week, and 1 day will always be on Sunday. That's just, I have to narrow that down. So it's measurable. Did she or did she not hit all 4 workouts? If she got 2, she got a 50%. If she got 3, she got a 75%. And so it's those simple things where, you can see your progress. And then she even is now mentioning and charting what time of day she works out, what type of workouts she does, and which one's her favorite, because then that can give her momentum. And then she can start kind of charting her own trends about herself. Attainable is something challenging, but possible. To say that I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year is a little crazy, right? And some people will try it, but you want to make sure that, again, you're being conscious if it's challenging, but make sure that you're kind of not shooting for the stars. And I say, again, think and dream big by all means. I always say, my dream is to become a billionaire. Well, to say that I'm going to earn $1 million in 3 months, again, I could do it, but realistically, the way I'm set up right now is not in that range. Maybe setting my scale and kind of being able to set that in order to do it in a much longer time frame. So making sure that it is relevant, right? That it aligns with your values and priorities. As I was mentioning, if you're going to shoot for that 10 and one of that slice of the life wheel, then make sure that you're not distracting yourself with multiple other things. So for whatever goal it is, make sure that it is aligned with what you are prioritizing. And additionally, make sure that it's timely. Like we were talking about that deadlines and milestones. So in that, attainable, giving yourself time. Funny enough, I was even saying I want to go camping, 3 times this month. well, that's only 3 out of 4 weekends of the month. Is that actually doable for me? Is it really possible? When I had already planned on doing this webinar, right? So it's something like that, where just give yourself time, consciousness, kind of give yourself a plan. It doesn't always have to happen overnight, but it certainly helps to kind of just have a plan forward. Helpful everyday tips. Do not postpone your happiness. Again, like I mentioned when we started, we only have one shot at this that we know of, so we have the power to choose. And that's one of the only things that we have, control of. So you can choose happiness. Funny enough, I actually shared a really emotional moment because I was sitting and, physical distancing, from everyone else at a restaurant. And a lady brought her little girl, and they were having food and having a good time. And the manager actually brought over their drinks. Well, he toppled over this drink all over them. And instead of getting upset, the lady was like totally empathetic, was like, it's fine, don't worry about it. She took it as a chance to play with her little girl and like, look, the ice is slippery, and everyone was laughing. So for her, again, she had the chance to get upset, to yell at him. She could have cussed him out. And instead she chose happiness. She chose to make it not a big deal. She let it, she had the power to not let it ruin her day. And she didn't ruin this other guy's day either, right? So know that we have that power within ourselves. You choose yourself, time and time again. You're the only person looking out for you, as well as making sure that you choose your priorities. We always talk about healthy boundaries and the self-care, and, mental health is a big conversation nowadays, but making sure that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to set those boundaries. And in fact, you need to set these healthy boundaries with yourself, with others, with your family, and setting it up and starting with those you love with is kind of the first step. Never underestimate your resilience is kind of the second one here. There will always be an opportunity for improvement. Again, I'm an engineer. I've spent 10 years in continuous improvement. I'm a nerd for it, but learning to also just be content, to celebrate and be able to look back and say, like, look how far I've come. Look at all the great things I've been able to do and achieve. And it's even for me, something as simple as like being consistent on Instagram, right? Everyone else can schedule their posts, or everyone just posts or takes a picture and it looks cute. For me, like, just showing up on social media is a lot of work. So being able to really celebrate myself in that way is really, rewarding for me. That was a big deal. And a simple reminder that you will never fail if you never give up. There's a quote that even says, utilize the power of yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not a billionaire yet, right? Because I'm going to keep working until I get there. And then last, but certainly not least, spend your resources on what matters most to you. And this is the big part, to you. We can get caught up in doing the comparison game, keeping up with the Joneses. Funny enough, Dr. Brene Brown on her podcast a couple episodes ago said, scientifically, when you look at your neighbor's grass on the other side, it looks greener because of the angle that you're at. Like, that's just how like the grass works. And so it's funny that has become such an idiom that we talk about. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, because it could literally be the exact same color. But if we're too busy not even paying attention to what we have and utilizing the resources to even improve, or even just be grateful and celebrate what we do have, you're constantly chasing a never-ending game. So make sure that you, again, remove all distractions. You are focused on what matters to you, and then that will start helping move you forward, rather than bringing in, guilt or jealousy or envy or even frustration, or even kind of self-doubt. Really believe in yourself and move forward, and, really show up for yourself. So some small things that I've done that work for me, doing random acts of kindness. I mentioned the story about the lady with the spilled drink. The world needs more love. One small action can truly change someone's life. You giving someone a compliment, maybe sending a thank you note, mailing someone, their favorite cookies, and just telling them thank you for the wonderful, light you bring to the world. It's these small things that really make a difference, and the memories that we'll kind of hold forever. Volunteer and help others. Again, we always feel great when we feel needed or wanted, or that we're offering some type of help to someone. So adding value is something that's simple, and just remembering to lift as you climb. Again, so for me, being able to even just share this, like I said, this simple concept of applying it to my life and what I already knew and learned as an engineer, just me just taking the time to help educate you, really helps me understand, hey, someone may be benefiting from this and can help, solve their own problems. Keeping a gratitude journal, first thing in the morning, again, being able to establish your mindset. This has become a part of my morning routine. Additionally, forgive quickly, but with meaning. A big one for me, and I've heard it from others, is simply forgiving yourself, right? Again, it's okay if you, have that hamburger. It's okay if you, maybe snap back at your mom sometimes. Like, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. So learn to forgive yourself and, learn to understand and forgive others. Exercise mindfulness. It's, simply slowing down, take a breath, be present, be intentional. As I mentioned, really just take an audit, an assessment of where you're at. How are things currently going? And then be compassionate and understanding. Again, back to the story, right? The lady had an opportunity to choose love or to choose fear, and she chose love. And to show that type of strength, not only just shows up for her character, but again, she can continue to enjoy her day. It didn't ruin anything. There's no negative vibes there. So continue to just keep that front of mind. And the last few final words here, everything in life is a choice. And I put my name here because this is my life motto. This is what my mom raised me to think, to believe, to know within my core. If I'm not happy, if I am frustrated, if I am just in a bad mood, if someone is yelling and screaming at me, the only thing I have control of is myself. When people were upset or calling me names, I'm such a sensitive person. Like I broke my heart, and I was like, how are people so mean to me? Like, why is it that they're doing this to me? And my mom, would say, well, whatever their reasoning is, like, is it true? And of course, well, no, most of the time not, and even that, like, who are they to you? Like, do they even know you? Well, no, not really. Okay. So then, like, their opinion, what they're stating is completely false, has no basis. Like, you're choosing to give it power over you. You can choose to not give them the reaction that they're looking for. You can choose to say, okay, thank you. Or if someone called me a bad name, she would even say, well, I guess I must be a damn good one if you can recognize me that fast, right? So these simple ways of, we have a choice of how we show up in the world, how we respond, and how we even show up for ourselves. Again, a lot of the times is we have this negative self-talk. We're too busy beating ourselves up about the things we don't have or what we aren't, rather than really celebrating and loving what we have been given. And it's all just a beautiful gift and a blessing to be able to experience life the way that we have. So without further ado, what questions do you have? I'm 150% here for you. Again, thank you for your time, for logging in on a Saturday. And again, if you're watching a replay or you're watching this after the fact, by all means, let me know. This is what I do. Like I said, I am the people engineer. You can find me anywhere at Brianne C. Martin. I have YouTube videos. I have a podcast. And additionally, if you'd like to kind of work through this, I also have a worksheet that you can do your own life audit. And that's here, free resources at briannecmartin.com/resources, and my email here if you'd like to reach out directly. But without that, like I said, I will wrap this up, and thank you so much for your time. This has been a real joy and an absolute treat for me.